Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of
GETL.
My name is Hans
I'm Edward.
and we are your hosts for now and forevermore.
Or until Lags comes and takes us away to
my gosh.
Never Land.
If y'all knew what Edward and I have been trying for the last hour and a half to get working so that we could record today's episode of GETL, I think you'd all subscribe to our OnlyFans.
The things we do for love. I mean, honestly.
If you are one of our regular listeners, welcome back, bitches. If you are new to GETL, welcome to one of the internet's best repositories for gaming, entertainment, technology, and lifestyle, news, reviews, previews, and information, all rolled up in a wonderful, geeky
Apple package, because you'll have to buy that for extra.
You know what? Just the fact that, I adore the Apple ecosystem. You know this. I'm a proponent of Apple products. And the reason for that is because generally they work incredibly well. But when they don't work, this is the thing with the Apple lifestyle. It is amazing. It is second to none when everything works, but lo and behold, you have a problem with something, and my gosh, Tim Cook is basically just bending you over and having a good time because, geez, man, the issues that Edward and I have been having before this episode, before we could even get it recording, is just specifically my side more than Edward's side. And I would imagine the reason for this is because Edward has the new M1 MacBook Air, and we all know the M1 processor is absolutely phenomenal, and it creams through anything. No matter what you throw at it, it's just an incredible architecture. And I have the feeling that macOS is slowly gearing towards preferring that kind of architecture over the Intel stuff. Okay, more like it just does. So
yeah, it just does.
And it makes sense because, like, for example, the M1 chipset obviously has things like the U1 chip built in and things like that. So, switching between devices, Apple devices, is quick and easy. Whereas for me, on an Intel Mac, it doesn't have that chip as far as, I stand to be corrected. And so I will sometimes have issues with my devices connecting to my MacBook. I have zero issues between my iPad and iPhone, mind you. It's just to my MacBook. Anyway, it was a mission to get this started. We have a whole lot of redundancies in place because of all the problems we were having. And with that in mind, Edward, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm actually good compared to always.
Our regular listeners will know that we always digress, and we've already digressed the moment the episode starts.
Yep.
Oh, Edward, you know how I'm doing. I'm not going to speak about it on the podcast. But all I'm going to say is the generic, I'm fine. So you can...
I'm fine. Everything is good.
Everything is good. Please send care package.
I promise I'm good.
Yeah, it's like I'm actually literally like, oh my gosh, like I know I'm joking about crying, but like the tears are literally on the verge. But anyway, don't worry. It's nothing hectic in personal life or anything like that. It's just, I suppose, stresses of COVID. Everyone is going through it, so I don't feel that my scenario is any more special than anybody else's, which is why I'm refusing to talk about it. That's basically it, or at least and not talk about it in a public forum because I don't need freebies to make me feel better. Right, moving on to the episode. Oh, yes. So, Edward.
Yes?
With COVID and all, this is an interesting thing that I kind of wanted to speak about. We were attacked at the beginning of 2020. I suppose everybody on the podcast knows as well. It was literally our second episode because straight after the first episode it happened. That was literally kind of like how it happened. So, GETL is this reminder. No, I'm just kidding.
Commemoration. GETL is the commemoration thereof.
The reason why I speak about it is because obviously in all the lockdowns that we've been going through, we haven't been going out. And the reason why I mentioned the whole attack thing is because I remember the psychologist we were speaking to, she said it's very important that we do our best to go back to normal as soon as possible. But of course, how could we? A month later, the country went into lockdown. So I've been quite secluded. You know this. You know, I have two parents over the age of 70. So I've been very, very, very careful in terms of who I see, who I meet, where I go, because I want to protect them, despite the fact that
Mhm.
one of the parents doesn't care to be that careful. But anyway, um, such is the case for boomers, right?
Yeah.
I mention this because I have, I've, I'm not really an anxious person per se, but I will admit that every now and again, and I assume this is because we were attacked, I do get some anxiety when I'm around people that remind me of what happened to us. All right.
Mhm.
And this is just in general. Like, I don't want to be alone, surrounded by people I don't know. That's what I'm trying to get at. And
Yeah.
it's not a bad thing. It's not like I'm super anxious or anything. But what I'm trying to get at is we recently watched a film called The Woman in the Window. And it actually deals with agoraphobia, whereby the lead actress, Amy Adams, is somebody who suffers from agoraphobia. And she doesn't leave her absolutely fabulous New York apartment. She's obviously quite a wealthy lady. And the whole story then revolves around her psychologist, and the medication she takes, and then her inability to distinguish between what is real and what is medically induced hallucinations, coupled with her
Mm.
drinking problem. It's a wonderful
Okay.
cocktail for problems and issues, all right? And the movie itself it's it's decent. It's not great per se, but it's a decent look into what kind of anxieties a lot of people today might be facing.
Mm.
For her one, it's a little bit more nuanced. The movie does a fairly decent job of eventually going through why she is feeling the way she feels, why she is the way that she has become, because she used to be quite a successful child psychologist, and what happened between then and now to why she's an agoraphobic. Now, it's also worth pointing out that the film stars Gary Oldman and Julianne Moore. And Julianne Moore's performance in this film, albeit short, was sensational. Truly. I wanted more of her and her character, and there just wasn't enough of it. Gary
Mm.
Oldman, look, I don't want to give. I know we spoke about the spoiler paradox in the previous episode, but I feel if I talk about, if I tell you what's going to happen, not that it will ruin it, but it just kind of will. Look, the movie is predictable. I'll put that aside. Also, it's weirdly shot because it's kind of like a homage to. I've just forgotten his name. It was on the tip of my tongue. Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, okay.
So, if anyone is familiar with his old films and things like that, you will see a lot of that in The Woman in the Window. Now, some people might not like that. And the reason why I mention this is because Hitchcock's portrayal of fear and horror was very unique.
Yeah.
By today's standards, I would say it's a classic for a reason, because if you had to reproduce it today, with the exception of the recent Psycho, which when I say recent, but it was like 15 years ago, which was done very well, it doesn't really translate as well. If I'm talking about the lady and she's like screaming and you see like the shadow with, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's
Mm. The
very
ching, shring, shring.
theatrical. Yes, yes, very theatrical.
Yeah.
So the movie doesn't start off like that. The movie starts off as like a bit of a thriller and a mystery, and what is she seeing? Is it real or is it a hallucination? And then eventually because it's quite easy to sort of piece together what's going on, although there's always that doubt of is what's happening real or not. But what I'm getting at is
Mm.
eventually it becomes very Hitchcock inspired. And then it's very OTT, and that sort of detracts from the rest of the film, because the villain now makes an appearance and you kind of like, okay, we kind of knew that was the villain, but then the villain is just so over the top, you're like, really?
Mm.
With like their monologue, and them they're coming for Julianne Moore, I mean, sorry, not Julianne Moore, coming for Amy Adams. It's it's look,
A
it's
bit much.
towards the end, yes. And so
Mm.
it's an okay film. It's decent. If you want to watch something that's entertaining, at the very least, watch it. It can be a little bit confusing to some, just because of how they throw in her hallucinations and what happened to her in the past and so on and so forth. But it's okay. It's a decent film. I think the acting was superb, specifically for Amy Adams and Julianne Moore, regardless of the
Mm.
script and the story and so on and so forth. I understand also that it was based on a book. A lot of people say the book is better, but when is a book not better than the film? So that's not. You mean I haven't read the book, and I thought the film was okay, but it wasn't too bad. You know,
Okay.
And one of the things in the film also she struggles to breathe through anxiety attacks, so she obviously sometimes doesn't get enough oxygen to the brain, which leads me on to my next film called Oxygen on Netflix.
Oxygen.
I'm sorry, that was a bit of a bad segue. Okay, I'm sure many of you were hoping to hear Edward laughing at my segue. The reason why you're not is because everything just decided not to work at that very moment in time while we were recording GETL. Everything just died. It doesn't matter how many redundancies we have in place, it was just a total mess. And now, although most of you don't realize it, we're about 40 minutes after we began recording because only now are things working again.
And we hope it'll last.
Oh my gosh. If it's not the internet, it's the power. If it's not the power, it's software. If it's not software, it's us breaking down because we're old bitches now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, back into the lack of oxygen and where I was going, and that was I recently watched a Netflix film called Oxygen. Okay, it's pretty decent. It's actually a French film, and I do understand that Naomi Rapace used to be attached to the project, but then she was replaced in favor of another lady whose name I've forgotten to put down here under my notes. So it is one day today, isn't it, Edward? It is just a day.
As always. Just one of those.
Anyway, it's a pretty well acted film. It's an unusual film because it all takes place in one singular space with one single actress at the center of it all. And it has to do with I don't think this is much of a spoiler because it was kind of obvious. I guessed it because I normally watch the things that TV and movies with my folks, and I was telling them what I thought it was, and they were so shocked that I ended up being right. That it had to do with like cloning and space and end of the world and blah blah blah. I've given you just enough to not really ruin anything, although spoiler paradox. So as I said before, it's very well acted, but as is par the course for most sci-fi TV series and movies, there is always that OTT element of like, so in essence, it's called Oxygen because this lady wakes up in a cryo chamber. She shouldn't have woken up, obviously, and that's the whole mystery of why is she there, what happened, and so on and so forth. And according to the AI, she's running out of oxygen. She only has like, I think 35% or 38% left or whatever the case is. And then, of course, the film goes on and how she tries to, you end up finding out who she is and why it's important and why she is where she is and so on and so forth. But then, you think to yourself, I mean, at least I would think to myself that if you're in that kind of a situation and yes, oxygen is running out, but oxygen is running out, would you really like overreact and cry for like half of the time that you're in there? I know,
no,
I know that. Well, see, this is the thing. When you cry, you hyperventilate, right? You end up
Exactly.
breathing a lot more. So, for me, I suppose, in certain respects, I was like, listen, lady, you need to calm down because the more you overreacting like this to your impending death, the less time you have left, And the film in some ways does a good job of explaining away why she's inexperienced. But then at the same time, it doesn't. I don't want to say why. Like for those of you who want to watch the movie, or maybe I should, Ed, how do you feel about it? I mean, it
I'll
doesn't...
probably not watch the movie, so I don't know.
Okay, a small part of it is she's a clone, all right? And which is, for me, it was easy to guess that that's what she was. And, then they go into how she has memories that are hers or not. Anyway, the whole thing is like, if she's a clone and she has the memories of the original, given who the original was in this film, she should really know not to overreact in the way that she's been overreacting. Anyway, It's a somewhat decent film, but it is predictable and it can be a little bit nonsensical at times, especially, with this super intelligent AI, which is supposed to, answer questions that she has and that, and it has like it has a fine line between being awfully dumb and having a lot of sass. So,
Mhm.
which is a bit weird for an AI that's supposed to be preserving life. Anyway, it's an overall decent film. I wouldn't rush out to watch it, but if you want to watch a really well acted film that gets a little bit OTT at times, Oxygen isn't too bad on Netflix. Now, speaking
All right.
of a little bit of cloning, which is what I actually realized now I had to mention that for that review because it's going to lead me to my next topic, and that has to do with the human egg,
Okay.
which we can't
Like,
crack and eat. But
yeah, like,
uh,
is it the ovary or?
remember the ovary is the ginormous factory that produces the ovum, which are the eggs.
Hmm.
All right. Now, the reason why I thought that this was absolutely fascinating is because, when you think of the cells in the body, you automatically assume microscopic. Well, I did not know this, and this blew my mind. You can actually see the human ovum with the naked eye. I don't know, it blew my mind. Apparently, it is 0.1 millimeters in diameter on average. And there was we'll obviously link to it in the show notes, and it's the most incredible photo of how they put the ovum in a petri dish next to a coin, and you can actually see it. And I just thought to myself, isn't that absolutely incredible? How one of the largest cells in the human body is also the one for reproduction,
That's
for
cool.
allowing the human race to, you know, remain non-extinct.
Well, I
You
guess it
know?
makes sense because that thing I assume becomes a baby and a human.
Well, in conjunction with sperm, yes. Obviously the two
Yeah,
of them join together
yeah.
in holy
No.
matrimony, and before you know it, there's a baby. A bunch of cells that become a child. So
Hmm.
it was just very interesting to me. And then naturally, because I was reading about it, I saw some more really cool information. Like I've always known that human women are born with a finite number of eggs. Okay, but I never fully understood how that entire process works. And so, in just learning about the size of the cell and so on and so forth, it turns out that most women are bestowed with roughly 600,000 eggs. So at first glance, I was like, whoa. I was like, that is a lot, but like, we don't have that many in our lifetime. If we really, if women have 600,000 eggs, how is it that maybe we only have, okay, well, like, I suppose 10 children is a bit much, but some people have a lot big families. What I'm trying to get at is, it's not like we as humans have tens and tens of kids. All right.
Hmm.
And so I started looking into this a little bit, and I learned a little bit more about female reproduction. And what's so interesting about it is that, first of all, there's a finite number of eggs, and those eggs are from, I think, like your 22nd week of development in the womb. They're already there, they're already present, which I think is phenomenal. And at the time of birth, already roughly 10 to 20,000 eggs sort of get reabsorbed back into the body, interestingly enough.
Hmm.
And then they stay in the body until puberty, where they now, the body has the capability to mature egg cells for reproduction. Now, what's interesting about this, and I didn't know this, is technically, I mean, I knew that normally, once a month during ovulation, there's at least one egg coming down the fallopian tube. Okay. What I
Actually,
didn't know, oh, yes?
on that note, now that you mention it, Hans, I just quickly want to interject. During ovulation, one bigger egg ovulates, but a
Hmm.
woman loses about 1,000 miniature eggs,
Yes,
immature
I know,
eggs
Edward.
each month.
We're getting there. So,
Jeez. I- I'm just saying it's not in the notes, so I thought I'll tell
so,
you that.
so essentially, the whole thing, the way that it works is that yes, there are like plus minus 600,000 eggs, but there are
Yeah.
only 200,000 follicles. Now, these are special egg sacs, if that's really how you want to call them. And
Mhm.
what ends up happening is, in order for an egg to be released, to come down a fallopian tube, it has to go into one of these follicles. However, only 500 of them are released within a human reproductive lifetime. Now, that
Yeah.
sounds like a lot, but it isn't really in the grand scheme of things, right? And this also then relates to what you were saying about how, yes, there is one egg that comes down within a follicle, but then there are a whole lot of others at the same time, which are then expended by the body or um, programmed for cell death in terms of reabsorption. There's actually a name for it. It's called follicular astresia. So I don't know. I thought it was just fascinating. And there's a little sort of image that I saw, and basically they say that within the womb at about 18 weeks you have 600,000 eggs. As you're born, you have 590,000 eggs. At the time of your first period, you have 360,000 eggs, and by the time you begin menopause, you have less than 1,000 eggs. And it's just it's just incredible, first of all, how many eggs are actually there, but then also how the processes are in place so that it's not like every single one of them can be fertilized. There has to be that whole, okay, one has reached maturity. Now that mature egg has to go into a follicle, and then that follicle needs to make its way down. So that's why, falling pregnant is sometimes not as easy as it seems, and why it's such a precious thing. And then, of course, at the same
Mhm.
time, how some of these follicles might just not attach, or they might just fall through, or as it said, several thousand, maybe once a month, just dissipate. They fall right all the way through. It's just fascinating. There were a lot of other facts about semen as well, but I feel we've covered that more than enough in
Yeah.
in
We
previous
have.
episodes of GETL. Like we all know that the sperm are the fighters. They're the ones that have to fight with each other to get to the
And be
ovum in order
chosen.
and to be the chosen ones. Now, with fighting on the mind, there is a very cool website called the Fighting Game Glossary. This is just a small little tidbit. I don't really think there's much to talk about it with this, but it's more along the lines of, if you are a connoisseur of fighting games, the Fighting Game Glossary will be right up your alley, because it is a wonderful website developed by a person who goes by the name of Infilament online. They're based in Canada, allegedly, at least according to their Twitter. And they've put together this website which acts as a wonderful repository for terms found within fighting games. So perhaps you've heard of somebody play Mortal Kombat once upon a time, and you've heard of the term fatality. Or maybe you've watched the movie, which is really bad, but you've watched the movie and you've wondered,
Fatality.
what exactly is a fatality? Well, the Fighting Game Glossary is here to answer those questions.
That's cool. That's actually
but
super
but
cool.
but genuinely, it's very, very good, and they have all sorts of things. So like, if you type in a character name, they tell you about the character. If you type in like a Hadoken, like, what does that even mean? The glossary has it to tell you that it's from Street Fighter, and so on and so forth. It's just very cool, to be perfectly honest with you. you know um
That's mega cool. That
do you know
does it
what's a
have like
little less
Nintendo?
cool?
Hmm?
Yes, carry on. Yes, you were saying
Yeah, I wanted to ask, does it have like Super Mario Bros. Battle or whatever it's called, the one from Nintendo?
Super Smash Brothers. Yeah,
Yes, that's the one.
it has a whole lot. Like, there's Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat, Super Smash Brothers, Tekken, Dead or Alive, and there are a lot of like much older ones as well. So it's very good. It's a cool website, rather, is what I'm trying to get at. Now, one thing they don't have on there, which is a little bit surprising, is Pokemon, because Pokemon fight. Anyone who's
Pokken.
played the card game will
Yeah.
know that they do. But do you know where they don't fight, Edward?
Where?
In Pokemon Snap.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I've been
Ooh.
playing Pokemon Snap for a while now. I actually wanted to speak about it in the previous episode of GETL, but I thought, you know what? Let me give it some more time, because I felt that I hadn't had enough time with it at the time, and I'm glad that I did. So initially, I mean, my initial sort of overview of the title is, I think it is average, with a very slight leaning towards being good. And the reason for this is because it has certain gameplay mechanics that are actually far more frustrating than I feel they should be. So, for those who are
Mm.
unfamiliar with Pokemon Snap, it is technically think of it as a Pokemon safari. You end up going on this little ship called the Neo 1, and you explore different locations and lands where Pokemon are in their wild and you have a camera and it's your job to photograph these Pokemon doing weird and wonderful things. And along the way, and as you progress, you're given things like throwing apples at Pokemon to make them do things, or Illumina orbs, which are different for each location. And they also then make Pokemon do unusual things. Or maybe if you throw an Illumina orb at a crystal bloom, which are these unique flowers that happen in this I don't know, new region of Pokemon, certain magical things will happen. Now, in its concept, a Pokemon safari sounds phenomenal. It sounds like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, I want to, take my time and go and see what the Pokemon are doing. How are they burrowing? How are they interacting with each other? Are they cute little things? Who's fighting with whom? That kind of thing.
Mm.
Pokemon Snap gives you a glimpse of that. Unfortunately, it is very much on rails. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with that term from a gaming sense, on rails means that you have no control over how quickly you're progressing through a stage. So in the game, you, like I said, you're in the Neo 1 like portable, I don't know, little car device thing. It kind of looks like one of those balls from Jurassic World. Anyway, you're in this device, and it just moves. So you don't have the choice of stopping it or going faster or slowing it down. It just moves through the level, and then it's your job to do your utmost best to aim the camera as quickly and as fast as possible to capture Pokemon doing things. It sounds fun at first, but it quickly becomes repetitive and as a result, frustrating and lastly, boring. Now, I was loath to say boring because, admittedly, the more you go through the levels, and that's where the repetition comes in, because as you do levels, you take photographs, and as you take photographs, you get scored on every photograph, and the higher your score, the higher your level, and every time you go up a level, new things happen within the stage. So perhaps on level 1, you'll see a Bulbasaur or whatever, eating a thing. But then on level 2, there'll be a Pikachu riding said Bulbasaur, for example. So every time you go up a level, new and more wonderful things open up in each stage, including new pathways. But not having the ability to stop and take it in and enjoy the Pokemon for whatever it is that they're doing is so immensely frustrating. There were so
Mm.
many times where you're doing this level, then like you see something, and then you want to keep focusing on it. You want to just watch this Pokemon doing their thing, and off you go. The Neo one just keeps
Yeah.
moving. Like, bye, bitch, not today.
See,
So,
that defeats the entire purpose of the game, though, in my opinion.
look, I understand why they've done it. The whole point of Pokemon Snap is to snap Pokemon. So if you have the ability to control the Neo 1 completely, how fast it moves, or maybe just stop it, it takes away, I guess, the element of being a fast cameraman, of quickly getting that one amazing shot of like a Growlithe, appearing over the just over the hill before running away. Do you get what I mean? But at the same time, it's frustrating because I want to be able to take it in. So the thing is, the game is really beautiful. There's so much to see. It's probably the most realized version of Pokemon I've ever enjoyed, and it honestly it far surpasses whatever was available in Sword and Shield. So given how wonderful the game looks, I can't help but want to immerse myself in each of these locations. So to be on rails the way that the game is, and whereby I don't have the option of just enjoying it, actually really frustrates me. And I've noticed how there are certain moments where a Pokemon will be in the way of the Neo 1 car. And when that happens, the car doesn't move. And that then allows me to just observe. And in those moments, I enjoy the game the most. So, that for me is the weirdest part about Pokemon Snap. Like, I understand there has to be a level of gamification to the title. There's got to be some sort of okay, it has to be on rails, because if you could just shoot all the Pokemon as often as you liked, it takes away that, that element of being quick, being fast, quickly snapping. You get what I'm saying, I don't know.
Mm,
I guess it's different games,
The
different style games for different gamers, and this is just not doing it
the
for me. And I
thing
love
is,
Pokemon.
being a quick snapper isn't the way safari photographers usually work.
That's such a good
Um,
point. That's such a good point.
it's it's
Yeah,
weird. It's just a
actually,
weird
that's such a
concept.
great. You've brought up actually a fantastic point. People who photograph wildlife will often camp out for hours to get the perfect shot.
Hmm.
Now, I mean, I'm not saying I want to camp out for hours in Pokemon Snap to get the perfect shot,
Yeah.
but I mean, I would love that. I would love to be able to move the car at my own discretion and take in everything. So what
Yeah.
if I want to take 500 shots and move up 10 levels in one playthrough? I don't know. It's just I suppose it takes away from how the game is structured, because like I said, it's repetitive. So every time you go through a level, you have to take photos. Then at the end of every level, you have to show the professor every single photo. And it is just such a slow process because you have to first select a single photo of whatever Pokemon you've taken a photograph of. Then you have to show said photo to the professor. Then the professor has to rate each photo from a level of 1 to 4. And then he has to score the photos. And only then, after doing this for however many Pokemon you've taken, and bear in mind it's for every single photo that you want for whatever Pokemon, only then do you then get a score and then whether or not you've leveled up. And if you haven't leveled up, the option to retry presents itself.
But
So
that's weird then.
why?
Because that breaks up the gameplay, because now you have this fast safari photography that you need to quickly shoot all the 3 or 4 Pokemon on this route, and then you go and into the slow ass process.
You're
It
actually
breaks
spot
up
on.
the
The
gameplay.
the number of times I've sat just spamming A to get through the photo
The photo
evaluations.
process.
I'm just like, I could be playing the game. Like literally, I've actually had that thought of
Yeah.
this should be quicker. Like I should be able to just select everything and just
Hmm.
press A, and then everything gets auto-rated. And if I really want to go in and see the breakdown of every photo, I can. But if I don't want to and I just want
Yeah.
to progress, look, so it's things like
Hmm.
that. The game is meant to be, I suppose, on some level, soothing. It's meant to be this enjoyable ride through different landscapes, shooting Pokemon. You're photographing Pokemon. But I actually just ended up getting more and more frustrated and then eventually bored. Now, I've progressed quite far. Unlocked, I think, almost all of the locations, and I'm on level like 3, 4 on some of the places. And I'm not really inclined to go back, to be honest with you. Like, yes, it's cool and it's fun that every now and again there's something new, and especially when you find more Illumina Pokemon. But I feel, I feel too frustrated to want to go back. Like, I actually got to a point where I was pushing my way through the game for the review and not actually going back to the game because I enjoyed it. And that for me is a very sad state to be in, especially because I enjoy the franchise so much. So overall, I would say that as beautiful as it is and as lovely, and you can tell they've put a lot of care into it, especially with the way the Pokemon interact with each other, and that it's an average game in many ways, unfortunately. Oh, that like
Hmm.
hurts me to say.
Yeah. I was wondering, like,
I mean, I'm the
that's a
kind of
knife
person
to the
who
heart.
would have loved to have had to own Pokemon, to be in the world. And I mean, I have that
Hmm.
replica Pokeball that I mentioned in the other episode, which I still haven't unboxed, by the way. And it makes me wonder, like, how would I track them if they existed today? I mean, goodness knows when I eventually go back to Joburg, I'm going to try and put a AirTag on Cobalt, my cat, just to see where he goes. And that leads me to Apple's AirTags.
Gosh, so bad. But it works.
um,
It works.
There are super cool devices. For those of you who don't know what they are, an Apple AirTag is like a €5 coin or €2 sized coin. Or is it €1? I don't know. Anyway, it's like a coin sized little white puck that you can sync with your Find My Apple service. And you can put it in bags or in your car, whatever the case is, or on your keys. And essentially, it helps you to find them. But it does it in the most remarkable and Apple-like way where it genuinely destroys everything else in the market. I mean, I know I've been a Tile user for several years, and this just Tile who is basically what happens now that I have an Apple AirTag.
Okay.
Again, why it makes it so phenomenal is because AirTags now use all iPhone 10s and above, because any basically Apple device with a U1 chip it has Bluetooth Low Energy and therefore can ping AirTags, which have a battery life of over 1 year, and the battery is user replaceable, by the way. All firsts for Apple. And it's just a fantastic device or concept because it literally can bounce off every single Apple device that can currently exist today. And there are far more people with Apple devices than people who have tiles, for example, because Tile relies on other people having tiles, but not everybody has a tile. But many people might have an Apple device, but not necessarily an AirTag, you see? But they all bounce off each other. So it's just the coolest concept, in my personal opinion. And it's integrated so beautifully into iOS that you don't even have to think about it. And it's difficult to really talk about in terms of how the app functions in that. But, there are things like how it uses the haptic feedback on the phone for the closer you get to the AirTag that you're searching for, how it vibrates and it dings, and on the screen, you see an arrow, and it's all just reminiscent of Apple's, penchant for making things work really well when they work. And I've actually ordered 8 AirTags. I don't know when I'm going to use them all. I only have one being used at the moment, but I'm waiting for things like I bought an AirTag wallet. So I'm going to put an AirTag in there. And then I'm also going to put an AirTag in a keyring that I have on order, and possibly put an AirTag on Cobalt. I
can have 4 left.
Well, possibly for my family, right? There's so much more you can say about the AirTags. How, for example, they have built-in protection so that you can't track somebody that doesn't want to be tracked, for example. So like a great example is, let's say me and Edward, and I'm like, I need to know where that bitch is going, and I slip an AirTag into his bag. Edward will be notified that there is a strange AirTag following him around. Obviously, it doesn't happen straight away. It happens after a period of time, as if, let's say, maybe half a day or a day goes by. Let's say the AirTag knows it's not at home. It knows that it's away, and it knows that and Edward's iOS device is like, I don't recognize that AirTag. So he'll actually get notifications saying you have a strange device around you. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that as well. So it can't necessarily be used maliciously, it's a great device. In terms of a rating, I don't know. I want to say exceptional because of what it brings to the table that no other device like this can do at the moment. That's why I would rate it as an exceptional device. It's just beautiful looking. It's well priced. It leverages off the entire Apple ecosystem. It is the smart tracker that everybody should go for. I don't think it works with Android though. So basically, if you have an Apple device, of course, this is for you. This is for you. Hey Ed, maybe one day we could track aliens, or no, better yet, it's more like you have one of these in your wallet, and then you get abducted by aliens, and then people can find out if they're real or not.
If it's gonna work up there,
because Obama says they're real. Okay. I'm just saying. Well, there's even a 60-minute special on the fact that there's now disclosure happening. So
Obama basically just said, we don't know what a UFO is. Okay.
Yes, because they call them something else now. They call them unidentified aerial something. It's a UAF, I think. Right? Or
unidentified
UAO.
Alien flight.
No, not alien. Basically, they've just changed from UFO to a new designation. And I'm just looking at that and I'm just thinking to myself, listen, y'all, we know it be UFOs and aliens. Why are you trying to make it something that it's not? It's very interesting. There's a lot of discussion about all the disclosure happening at the moment. Basically around, are they prepping us for an actual reveal coming? Because if you think about it, especially with COVID, over like the last 2 years, there's been a lot of like Pentagon has released this, and pilots are now talking about. They're now allowed to talk about the things that they see. I think it's UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. That's it. I stand to be
what the,
corrected, but
okay.
I think that's the
No,
new
I think you're
term.
probably.
I think it's the new
Hmm.
term. Yeah. Anyway, there have been some aliens that Edward has been enjoying over the last week or two. Ed,
Enjoying is a
hey,
term you can
remastered
mention.
aliens.
Yeah, I've been playing lots of Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I love it. Just love Mass Effect
Look,
to
I
begin with.
mean, everybody knows about
Um,
Mass Effect, right? I mean, we
yeah,
all know Commander Shepard, best, most epic arc in video game history from a science fiction perspective.
yeah,
Because it's not new. I mean, these games are what, like 15 years old already? Like 2007,
yeah.
I think was the first
It's
one.
50 now.
So
Yes.
Ed, like legit, I mean, I know, look, you're a huge fan. I know you can talk hours on Mass Effect. So ideally, I just want to get them facts from you.
Okay, the facts about the Legendary Edition.
Yes.
It's a remaster, nothing but a remaster. It includes all of the DLC except for Pinnacle Station, which the source code has become lost or something. But saying that, Pinnacle Station is just like almost PvP, but single
That's
player.
weird. So
So it
because they
doesn't
couldn't
matter.
find the source code, they couldn't include it? I mean, couldn't they just take it off like the
Yeah,
Golden Master disc or something?
that's what I thought. I
Hmm.
thought that, but apparently not. So I don't know.
Interesting. All right.
Um, it's all but Pinnacle Station, which means Mass Effect 1 only has the one DLC of the two. Everything else is included. Everything ever released for the games are included in the Legendary Edition, including the pre-order suits and skins.
Oh, that's awesome.
Actually, a cool thing now is all of the pre-order stuff. You used to get them right at the start as soon as you could change out your suit or your armor. Now
Yeah.
they are dotted throughout the progress of the campaign.
Oh, so although it's a remaster and not a
mm,
remake, they have
mm,
made one or two small quality of life changes, I
yeah,
suppose.
yes, especially for Mass Effect 2 and 3, more so than 1, and I'll get to that in a second. And also, many things you wouldn't expect have also been changed. Like, okay, so it's known that you can romance squad mates throughout the games.
Hell yeah. Mhm.
Starting in Mass Effect 2, you can romance Quarian, which is a masked squad mate called Tali. And
Yep,
if
yep.
you do romance her, you get a photo of her. That photo was subject to huge controversy back in the day because it
Why?
was just a photoshopped stock image. Now,
Of
what do
whom?
stock images exist for? It was just a random stock.
Oh.
So now they completely changed that into a unique new image of Tali.
Oh,
And
nice.
I'm very excited to explore that once my romance has budded enough.
Evolved. Yeah,
But
yeah.
first it's Liara. My first playthroughs are always Liara. That's my canon. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah, they've changed little things. Also in Mass Effect 1, one of the enemies, it's an anti-human enemy. His name was Hurkin or Harkin or Herc, something like
Yeah.
that. It's a
Yeah.
Turian name, but he was always human for some reason. In
Okay.
the Legendary Edition,
Is he
he's
Turian?
now a Turian. Yes, he's remade into a Turian, which
Okay,
makes
okay.
more
Fair
sense.
enough. Fair enough.
So it's little things just to make you more immersed into the game.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
that
yeah.
all that, as you said, I can speak about this for years.
I know.
It must be noted that it's just a remaster. Mass Effect 1 especially looks beautiful, but it still looks the worst of the three games because
you know, I found that as well.
yeah.
So I've had a little bit of time with them as well, not as much as you have, obviously.
Mhm.
And a part of me really wishes they had done the remake route. You know, kind of like Final
Yes.
Fantasy, you know?
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 7, and not just any Final Fantasy. Just because as it's dated, it still seems dated, you know?
Mm.
Like, I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean, what I'm getting at is you can already play these games. And if you have PC, you can already mod them to look just as good, you know, for the most part.
Yeah. That's very
So
true.
it just seems a bit strange to me that they spent a lot of time upscaling them with AI and so on and so forth. But, you know, a remake would have been really good. Like the recent Spyro, the Crash Bandicoots, the Final Fantasy VII, as I mentioned, because it deserves it. Mass
Yeah,
Effect
it really
deserves
does.
a remake, you know? And then who knows, maybe if they had actually remade them, we could have had a proper Mass Effect 4. You know, despite the fact that I know you do enjoy Andromeda, Edward. It is one of the only ones I haven't played, so I can't comment on it, whether it's good or
Well,
not.
we are getting Mass Effect 4 now anyway. It's coming.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So,
Is it going to be Shepard,
yeah.
though? Because, like, I know there was that whole
No,
drama of whether he
well,
died or not, so, I
well,
mean...
canon is that he did. It's been 15 years.
the
Canon
canon
that
is he
did
died,
die.
right? But
Yes.
come on, people retcon all the time.
Yeah,
Right.
like
Just look at DC. I hope that Marvel never does. You know, the fact that I Love You 3000 is dead, he better stay that way for the foreseeable future. Because otherwise it'll ruin it. You know?
yeah, it will ruin it, to be fair.
Did you notice how I threw that in there without telling people who it was?
I did like that little bit.
Just in
Google
case
I Love
people
You
still don't
3000
know.
if you don't want it
You know?
spoiled.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's yeah. So it's still wonky. Gameplay, especially for number one, is a little bit.
It's because it's
stiff.
old.
Yes.
Ooh, not just that, but I mean, so I mentioned this to you, and that was the fact that I was disappointed that the menus are not in proper 4K. So, like, I mean,
Oh yes,
all they've done is they've taken the old resolution ones and upscaled it to 4K, but they didn't remake them. So, like, the buttons look like muddy, you know, on my big 4K display. And I just remember looking at that and thinking to myself, really? You really couldn't have just made that a little bit better? You know, why have you taken a 1280 by 720 image and blown it up to 4K and assumed we wouldn't notice? Because I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, see, and things like that are very prevalent in Mass Effect 1. Even the world and the actual design is still dated. Whereas in Mass Effect 2 and 3, they had the texture files on hand. They actually used the raw texture files and just exported those into
But
8K
again,
versions.
Ed, that begs the question, why is it worth it for people who already own it on PC?
I think it probably just to,
You know what?
or rather
You know what?
for the convenience more than anything.
I'm just sore, okay, that BioShock cancelled Anthem. That's all. BioWare is the same damn company. Yeah? No? I mean, I love me some Mass Effect, okay? But like, I'm still sore about that.
We should remember that the Anthem issues, that started before Anthem.
I know, okay, fine. I know those are different.
And that's what you should be sore about.
But
you should be sore that they didn't give it the due diligence.
Yes. But what I'm getting at is, or rather the point I'm trying to say is like a remaster was like a cheap ass way of doing it versus a remake. That's what I'm getting at. Like, you know, it's similar to Anthem is what I'm trying to say. I know it's different, but what I mean is, you know, there was a game that they could have redone to make better on a good base, but didn't. Now they have a game that was exceptional, but chose not to redo it and just sell it again at a higher resolution. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's always the easy way. Like, canceling Anthem was easier than rewriting code. So remastering Mass Effect was easier than remaking Mass Effect.
See, that's the EA way.
But geez, this is it. It's horrible. Horrible.
Yeah. See, before the Legendary Edition was announced, and while all the rumors were always circling and going around the mill, it was always said that it might be ported to the Andromeda engine. Even if just the same game, porting it over will automatically, essentially remake it, even though it's a lazy remake. In that everything would just look better because it would automatically have more polygons, because apparently the engine upscales everything for you and it does smart stuff.
What are they using? Is that the same one from like FIFA and that?
Frostbite. I think it's Frostbite. Yes. Yeah. Whereas 1, 2, and 3 is Unreal.
You see,
and
I would have liked to have seen that. I would have liked to have seen Mass Effect in the Frostbite engine remade for a new generation. Now, bear in mind, when I say remade, they don't have to go and redo voice lines and stuff, but they
No,
could have
just
made
port it
better
over.
facial articulation and
Yes.
upscale the menus, stuff like that. I mean, we're not talking about completely reinventing the wheel here, but
Mm,
it would have been, in my personal opinion, a better means of preserving this title than just upscaling
yeah.
it, because that's all that they've
Yeah.
done. And that means that, I know I keep bringing up PC people, but it just frustrates me because even former console owners, like I'm an Xbox owner, so is Edward. These games are available in EA Play, and previously if you bought them digitally. So what? I must now pay just for an upscaled experience when I can play the same game because the gameplay is identical on my backwards compatibility title. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a big gray area, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well, okay, sorry. I don't want to put a downer on it or anything, because I know
no,
that
no,
it is excellent in many ways. So
yes.
tell us, what is your verdict? And
yeah,
is it worth it?
with all of that said, I still think, especially to newer players, like one point we always emphasize in our remaster reviews is that the game is not essential for players who already own the originals. And I'm inclined to say the same for this one. With the exception of
Yeah.
the few gameplay tweaks like actually making the person a Turian and changing Tali's face, you won't get that in mods.
Yeah.
But
Well,
those changes are not significant enough to tell an owner of the trilogy to say, okay, maybe you need to buy this, especially on console.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
Because the reason I say especially on console is consoles can't be not modded, but you want the original experience. And if you bought the Mass Effect trilogy, not them separately, if you bought the trilogy, you already have all the DLC. You already have all of that entire experience.
Yeah.
So,
See, that was my point. So maybe I expected too much. Maybe I expected more from what was clearly a remaster from the get-go. Not a remake, but a remaster.
Yes.
I don't know. I just it's see, for me, look, my opinion is my score. I would just give it a good. I wouldn't rate it exceptional, because the story, yes, everybody deserves to play Mass Effect. If you've never played it before and this is your first time, please do yourself a favor and jump in.
Absolutely.
But if you've already played it and you already own it somewhere else, yes, this experience is very good, but it's good because it's Mass Effect, not good because they really made any changes to it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, fully. And that's the thing. I am teetering on good to exceptional because my review isn't published yet. As this goes live, it might be, because I am finishing it up, and I'm still struggling to get that to decide which is it.
You see,
I think it will be good, to be fair.
You see, this no, look, it's 100% going to be good. You can't, it can't be less than good. I'm just saying that for me, as a remaster, yes, it is exceptional in many ways because the 3 games are absolutely massive. All right, I just feel. You see, I'm confusing remaster and remake too much, I suppose. Maybe, I guess, from the perspective of a remaster, it is exceptional because they did do a very good job. They went through each of the textures. They went through all of this stuff. And the story is incredible. So yes, maybe as a remaster, it is exceptional. But as a previous owner, I only find it to be good.
That's the caveat. Yeah.
That's the caveat.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's maybe what I would say then, I suppose. Because I'm a fan. I don't want to not say that it's great. It's phenomenal.
Exactly. And the thing is, they changed enough of one to make it feel new, but still aged, still mega dated.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know. But isn't that always the remaster conundrum?
It is.
Most of these remasters always play so badly, even though they look better, which is why a remake is always so much better, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. Anyway, with aliens on the mind, with aliens on the mind, we've talked about Disclosure, we've talked about Mass Effect. Edward, I see here you say ancient aliens, but I think it has nothing to do with aliens?
Yeah, so I just put Ancient Aliens there because it reminded me of the TV show Ancient Aliens. But
Oh my gosh, that show. Let me tell you. You know what? I have to just talk to you about History Channel. What a load of crock.
Yep.
Okay? When last did you watch History Channel?
Oh, long ago. Long ago.
So I'm all online for years now, right? But my folks lived DSTV. And so History Channel was on the other day, and it comes across as like a BuzzFeed article in video form, because it's always like they're like the aliens, and did you know, and but was it? And then it's like ad break, and then they come back and then they repeat the exact same thing in different words for the next 15 minutes, and then they do that 4 times, and then at the end they're like, we'll never know. And I'm just like, who is watching this? How are they finding this entertaining? Why? Like, there's literally never a conclusive conclusion to anything that they put out. And the ads and the repetition, I was like, Anyway, Ancient Aliens, just the name, it's one of it was one of their best shows for a long time.
It used to be.
And it has that guy with the crazy hair. You know?
Yes. Aliens.
That guy. It does, yeah. Yes, that guy. And it all relates to the disclosure that's happening. Y'all, life is out there. Or under the ground. Hey, Ed.
And that's what I'm getting at. So it turns out that South African shark hunters may have, they have unearthed a colony, or whatever you call ancient ass dinosaur fish, of fish called the coelacanths.
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 Hold on.
Yeah,
okay, hold on. So a little bit that I know about a coelacanth, right, is that they were considered extinct for ages. Then over the last couple of decades, one washed up, and people were like, how is that possible? This ancient fish shouldn't exist. And then I remember decades later, they actually caught one on camera. Yeah. So now you're telling me they found a school of them?
A whole bunch of them, yes. So
for real? That is amazing.
So for context, this fish, the coelacanth, it predates dinosaurs. It goes back 420 million years. Okay?
Hold on. Did you say 420?
Yeah, blaze it.
420, 69.
It's technically called not technically. Some people call it the 4-legged fossil fish because it has tiny little leg thingies.
Like mandibles,
8 fins. It's an ugly ass fish, but you can see why this thing survived for 400 years.
It's beautiful, Edward. What are you talking about?
It's an ugly ass fish. Now, according to Manga Bay News, this reemergence could be linked to shark hunting. Now, I guess it makes sense because it was shark hunters from South Africa who found the fish in the first place.
Fair enough.
It might be the newer nets they use, which is specifically for shark hunting. It's called gill nets. It's deep sea nets, which might be bringing the fish upwards.
Are they hunting sharks to kill or hunting sharks for science?
I don't know. That's the thing. I didn't really Google that because I don't want to find out about that. But I know that because of
living in denial.
Yeah, I'll rather just be ignorant about that. But because of this, though, scientists are worried that the coelacanth may be subject to exploitation, especially around Madagascar now, because that's where they keep finding this.
Isn't that just typical humanity?
Yep.
Hey?
It's
typical humanity. Of course, now that this ancient fish is available in Madagascar, I'm sure somebody somewhere is thinking how they can grind it up into like some sort of horny sex potion.
Exactly. Like look at the pangolins.
You know, libido improvement.
It's sad.
Well, y'all, this is how COVID came to be. Okay. Oh,
yes.
Bear that in mind. Just a quick one, and I know this is not in the notes. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yes, you sent it to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see? The scientists are now grouping together because they now want to actually investigate whether or not COVID came naturally or if it was genuinely leaked from a lab.
Yeah. And
that is Huge.
And this is an actual investigation for a change, not unlike the
yes.
weird, like, did you do it investigation they had at the start of COVID. So
No, and also this is not the hearsay or conspiracy theory thing now. We're legitimately talking about reputable scientists from around the world who have now come together and have said, you know, there is smoke where there's fire generally. So yes, they don't necessarily believe it was the case. However, they feel it is necessary that a proper research conduct is done to make sure that it didn't get leaked by accident from somewhere. And apparently the Chinese government is very upset about that now.
But the thing is, if I had an evil lab, Hans, and I released this virus, my proof and my evidence would have been deleted like 11 months ago.
Already, right? I mean, it's been like 2 years almost since this thing started. I hear you, but you know, we might think that, but you always know someone somewhere is keeping something.
There's some
just like
drive.
that alleged mistress that kept Hitler's teeth. You know,
that's
okay. That granted, that's more conspiracy theory than anything else. But still, I mean, I just think this is truly a fascinating development.
Yeah.
And you know, I love how it comes at a time where we're also getting UFO disclosure. Sorry, I know I keep bringing that up.
No, that's good.
I find the whole fact that there's life out there as incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes me think, you know, when you put all of this stuff together and how, you know, you mentioned the pangolin and how that's where they say it came from because, you know, mixing of meats and blood and whatever the case is. You know, what if somebody was exploring something to do with COVID? All anybody wants to know now, I mean, not COVID, with SARS. All anybody wants to know was it legitimate? Was it deliberate or was it accidental?
Yeah.
You know, that's really it. That's all everybody wants to know. And if it was accidental, okay, cool. You know, you suck, but still, you need to know.
Like, thank you.
Or was it like genuinely biological? Like somebody was developing some biological weapon, in which case you definitely suck.
Yeah.
You know?
Then you'll be up. Yeah. Then you'll be recorded into hieroglyphs, okay, for the rest of your life.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, but before we do, NSFW. Oh, just for y'all out there, before we start talking about these wonderful Egyptians who absolutely love their phallic imagery, which is literally where we're going, and their hieroglyphs. Actually, this is probably a very small thing to talk about, but it was really, really hilarious to me. So, you know, their fonts, right? You know, Apple, Microsoft, Google, they all have databases with different fonts in them. And everybody knows that Android and Comic Sans, I can't even think about it. It's making me nauseous. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is there is a font called, I'm assuming it's Sogo or Sahu, and it's UI historic. I've always read it as Sogo.
Yeah,
I don't think it's
it is
Suhu,
Sogo.
as like Africa. It sounds like Muhu, but that's not a very nice word. Anyway,
no, it's not.
So, yeah, it's not a nice word. Anyway, essentially, what I came across is that, and I didn't know this, but the Egyptians have a lot of phallic hieroglyphs, meaning a lot of hieroglyphs that look like penises. And, you know, I mean, I guess, you know, hieroglyphics is very much a visual language. You know, they drew things. You know, the more I read into it, there's some interesting things like how, you know, pregnant lady giving birth is obviously for birth. You know, there's people with like hands to their mouths for eating or for sharing or whatever the case is. You know, there's a bound prisoner, which I'm not going to lie, looks very much like NSFW, BDSM more than anything else. Okay, let me tell you, these kinky Egyptians, they knew that what drawing a phallus meant. Anyway, modern historians say that these phallic symbols actually represent man or husband. They're not just dick, basically. That's so. And now the whole reason why I'm talking about this is because apparently this font, okay, this typeface, has been censored in all of the major operating systems because it includes these phallic symbols, but Google, Microsoft, and Apple refuse to show them, even though they're embedded in the OSs.
I know what
And I
I'm
just thought that was
downloading.
hilarious. Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
So,
I mean, come on. Everybody's already using the peach for ass, the peach emoji, and the aubergine emoji for dick. So, I mean, why not just have a phallic hieroglyph? Just give it to us already.
exactly.
Really. I mean, whatever, it's not such a big deal, So yeah, that was really it. That was a very basic, very small thing, and we related it well enough to aliens, I guess. And so I'm just gonna move on to the next one. Edward, what is this? I know we had Mass Effect and remakes.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Mass Effect and remasters, not remakes.
Yeah.
So what is this here about 2021 being the year of the porn remaster?
So,
Do tell.
as we all know, our favorite porn website, PornHub, they tend to be on the tippy top of all that is technology for some reason, and it seems like they want to be at the tippy top of history as well, and that is remastering old
Ooh.
projects. Now they
I would imagine they already are, 'Cause
yeah
in the history of, the history of humankind, of course, we didn't have the internet back then, but they already are historic, right? They
yeah
do something bigger and better than anybody else, including philanthropy, I might add. Anyway.
okay. So it's officially called the remastered project, mastered as in masturbation. And what it does is it it remasters films going as far back as 125 years. Now, excuse my ignorance when
Excuse
I say
me?
I had no idea porn existed back then. Um,
It's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, I know I was saying about like the Egyptians and stuff, and I mean, we know that in like the Romans and that, but like, you mean actual
filmed,
recorded
yes,
pornography?
yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So how it works? Well, for reference, let me go down that route first. For reference, a film called The Kiss. It's an 18-second film. So I don't know that's just the days of 18-second films, I guess. Called The Kiss it was made in 1896, which means some of our grandfathers might have still
Wow.
seen it. And what it is, it's
Jeez.
an actual filmed recording of the first smooch, the first kiss on screen.
That ain't no porn.
125 years ago, that might have been. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah, okay,
so
fair
that's
enough, fair
weird.
enough.
Anyway, so how this thing works is Pornhub feeds a machine learning AI 100,000 adult images and videos, and then teaches it how to colorize film. Then it goes through several algorithms to basically restore it as much as it can without human intervention, by reducing noise, by upscaling the textures, by making images sharper and less more contrasting, and all of that in order to get it to run at 4K 60 for some weird reason, because back then films only ran at 10 frames a second. And
Wow.
even
That's
remasters the
incredible.
audio.
This is incredible.
And it's so
how are they?
I
mean,
have no idea.
We just last week spoke about Intel's new AI, which is making games look photorealistic.
Mhm.
Now we're talking about a Pornhub AI,
Yeah.
which is going so far as to take a 125-year-old video
Yeah.
and make it 4K 60.
Yeah, I have no idea how it works.
That is insane.
So, basically the two big films in question at the moment is The Kiss and another one called After the Ball, which is the first film to ever include simulated nudity. Now, I'm not certain what exactly that means. Maybe like cartoon nudity or something. I am going to try and get my hands on these films because they should be in the in the open. They should be free to view.
Yeah.
And I will report next week back if I find them.
Oh yeah, that'll be amazing, Edward. That'll be
Yeah, I think
amazing.
so. I think so. If I can get them.
When you find them, pass them my way.
Sure, yeah. They're like
I want to
minute,
see. I want to see what it can do. You know what
Yeah.
this tech can do, because to me it sounds absolutely incredible, absolutely
does.
incredible, almost as incredible as Goop's candles.
right? Okay,
The ones that we have promised that we were going to get for ages now, and we haven't. But I see here, Edward. Oh, it is actually about Goop's candles. I just that was
the very one.
I know there was a segue that I was making, but I didn't realize this is actually what this was about. So please tell us more about why we need to have more of Madame Paltrow's coochie cooch in my house.
Or less, because
or less. Oh, why?
It's
What's happening?
explosive. It's the bomb, in fact. So Mrs. Paltrow, the Queen herself, and her WAP candle. Well, if I didn't carry on with that sentence, it would have been sounded weird. Turns out that they spontaneously combust for some people. This is
what
the
do you
second
mean?
case now where the candle has been burning for a little while, and then it goes up in flames, burning everything around it. So yeah, the newest
it's just
issue now.
That hot.
It's so hot. A guy going by the name of Colby Watson in, I believe, the UK. He owns this candle. He ordered it recently, and according to him, he burned the candle for an estimated. Now this quote sounds so weird because this is what he said. An estimated 3 hours or less. This sounds like a lawyer quote. Okay, first thing.
But that's nothing for a candle in any case.
No, but the thing is, what the candle did is it filled the room with smoke and left a black burn on his nightstand. It didn't shatter the glass or anything, so I don't know how that happens. Without,
I call BS.
Yes,
because
that's what I call
anybody who burns candles. All right, now I'm a huge candle person. Actually, if you're watching this video, you'll see I'm literally going to bring one out here, as you can see it. Lovely flavor, this one, by the way. Anyway, what happens is with that one that I've literally just shown, and for those of you who are listening, it basically looks like an hourglass with the wooden top where you pop off and you can light the candle. When the wick gets down to the bottom because you've burnt the candle at least more than 3/4 of the way, this particular shape ends up charring the insides of the glass. But not in a bad way. Just you're burning a candle, so it's making a bit of soot on the inside. It easily washes off. This is what this sounds like to me.
Yeah, it does. So, according to Goop, the claim sounds frivolous because they say Heretic, the makers of the candle, have very strict quality assurance
Naturally,
QA, because it's a candle that is burning as it.
Yeah.
But they also go on to mention that Goop have warnings on their products, such as specifically for this candle, not to burn it for more than 2 hours at a time at once. And once I don't know, that's just what they say. And
once you do,
if you snuff it and you start it up again, you should trim the wick. Now it says
they all say that though. Yeah, mine also says that.
Yeah, so I guess maybe this person was negligent and they just
didn't do
that.
This person, listen, unless there's some sort of flammable accelerant in the actual wax, there's no way a candle just goes up in flames and burns quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be a flame to actually cause the wax to melt. Wax doesn't just instantaneously melt. It doesn't do that. Unless, of course, it's wax inside of a... No, hold on. Unless it's inside one of those lava lamps that you've accidentally sat on. That's different.
That's very different. Very, very different. I just
see, that's different because a lava lamp is hot all the way through. So the glass actually acts as a filament to warm the wax to bubble up. Whereas a candle, the heat is only at the top. It's only coming from the wick. So it can only make the top melt. So the fact that he's saying that the whole thing burnt up is I don't believe that.
Yeah,
I don't.
it sounds.
As somebody who's been using candles for years, I don't believe this for a second.
And that's the thing. Goop says it sounds like this is just a payout thing for a very highly publicized candle, which it is. We've spoken about. It's literally our mascot by now. And yes, that's what I think. It's just interesting.
We promise we're going to get one. We promise we will get one.
We will.
Right? We promise.
It's just
we promise.
interesting to see all of these people. Now, this is the second case, as I said, to come out and say, listen, this candle burnt my nightstand to a crisp. It's just weird. I thought it's worth mentioning that maybe we might hold off until we know exactly if people are lying or not.
Listen, y'all, I don't need no more fires in my house, please.
Exactly.
Thank you.
If we get the candle, we'll burn it next to the
Bye.
pool. Okay? And then we'll
outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and I guess that's the end of NSFW.
Yeah.
Edward?
Yes.
What a bitch-ass mother effing episode.
It was a bitch. A huge bitch.
For those of you who are listening, it might sound like a wonderful hour and 20 odd minutes plus minus, because we're not really sure how long we've been going for. Because we have started and stopped at least 5 times. And before that, we spent over an hour and a half getting everything working. We don't know what the causes are. All we do know is that I am most likely going to be spending several days reformatting my Mac. So please wish me luck.
I think that's for the best.
My word. Never have I ever been so glad to get to the end of an episode of
Yeah. Yeah.
Generally, I'm sad to get to the end, but my word, well, am I glad that we are at the end of this episode, because it has been a good 4 hours now, and I am exhausted.
It's bad.
And I still have to put it together. So, anyway. Oh, yes. Anyway, Edward and I, the melancholia that is on the side aside, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for coming each week and for ensuring that if we have troubles that are 5 or 6 hours long, that you make it worth it. So thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for writing in. And with all of that said, and with all of that in mind, from myself and Edward, we hope to look forward to seeing you again next week. Ciao for now.
Bye.